Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. The other day, I did comment on the planned protests at SADC by some Zimbabweans. And one of the main actors in that is Gambakwe. Some of you have seen him on social media with his videos and so forth. I've said it and I'll say it again. I do not agree, totally disagree with this SADC protests because I honestly think they're a waste of time. They are being organized by people, some of them directly or indirectly connected with CCC and MDC. The very people who failed to implement the democratic reforms and led to the rigged elections last year. The protests are, among other things, calling that SADC should stop Mnangagwa assuming the chairmanship of SADC. I've said it, that if SADC was going to deny Mnangagwa the chairperson of the regional body, the best time to have done it would have been soon after the 2023 elections, last year's elections, when SADC's own observer team condemned the election process as flawed and illegal. They should have denied Mnangagwa legitimacy. But one of the reasons why I believe they could not do that is because MDC and CCC guys had participated in those elections. They had conned millions of Zimbabweans to do likewise. I think SADC, yes, there were some members who still would have wanted Mnangagwa denied legitimacy, but there were others who did not. And I believe they would have pointed the fact that the opposition had participated and millions, no fewer than nearly 2 million Zimbabweans voted for Chamisa that last year. And they would have pointed to, well, it's not for us as SADC to start saying what Zimbabweans should and should not do. If they participated in these flawed elections, knowing fully well that the process is flawed, knowing fully well that by participating they were giving ZANU-PF legitimacy, who are we as SADC to say no, we can't do that? And the events that followed soon after those last year's elections, when CCC imploded, would have only given further confidence to those SADC leaders to say, no, we should not interfere. Because calling for SADC to deny Mnangagwa political legitimacy, we're going to have serious ramifications. You deny ZANU-PF political legitimacy, then what? Some said, oh, well, we'll have Chamisa appointed as the president. Well, the aftermath of those elections saw CCC implode. So Chamisa was going to be president of a party that is imploding. Some people said, oh, we want to call for fresh elections. ZANU-PF would be contesting those elections against who? Because by January, the implosion in Triple C had reached a level where Chamisa himself resigned from the party and walked away. I have said these protests are a waste of time because Triple C should have implemented the democratic reforms. We should have stopped ZANU-PF rigging the elections. And since last year's elections, we should be focusing on making sure that this time, before 2028 elections, we have the reforms implemented. And so calling these demonstrations, asking SADC to do the impossible task of revisiting those election results with what end and purpose? But let me say it, and I'll say it very loudly and clearly. As much as I didn't agree with those who were organizing these SADC protests, I stand and will defend their right to protest. This is a video clip. Sorry, I must apologize from the word go that the quality of the video is not very good, but there it is. Of Gambakwe trying to report on what was happening in Zambia today. Let's just listen to it.
Bad the situation is. You've got a situation where a president has rigged an election. A regional body has issued a report that says he rigged the election. 17 out of 20 criteria not met. And I've received accreditation to go in there. And someone at the very high level of the Zambian government has made a decision, if we just allow this information that is going to come out of here to be broadcast, it's going to be amazingly difficult for the Zambian government. That's how afraid the Zambian government is of Mnangagwa. Mnangagwa's tentacles are spreading across the whole country. In fact, going to other countries. That is how bad this situation is with Mnangagwa. So let's watch and see. But all I can say is that we're entering uncharted territory as Africans and as Zimbabweans. It is going to come down in history. There was a man called Mnangagwa, and what he caused in Africa is terrible. Let's look at Jabu. Jabu is saying, but it looks like we are alone. I'm doing my journalism work. I'm not here to protest. I told you, Wariguti, in Indian Dream Cut. I was inside. So the guys who are protesting are going to be there. They are there. We even paid for some people who didn't show up, though. We paid for some people to come, and they didn't show up. It's very unfortunate, but there are people here who wanted to protest. I don't know if they've been stopped somewhere, but you can see that security has increased dramatically. They have put 16 soldiers just on this stretch. So if I'm looking down, there's even more soldiers. So these are armed people. But I don't think those people are a threat, because when I was with the police, the armed police inside, they were very cautious to me. They talked to me nicely. There was just one crazy person. I don't know if that is the guy from Zimbabwe. who was trying to make himself looking important. And the funny thing is, once we're in Zambia here, it's no longer like Zimbabwe where you can just find someone and shoot them. Like you find someone and then you start shooting, and the police are coming now. So guys, just make sure that I don't get arrested, okay? Hello, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, you want me to? I was talking to. Okay, stop it now. Okay, now I've stopped. Yes, I've stopped. Carry your things. Carry your things. We have advised you don't want.
I'm not sure what happened there, but I must admit that I, for one, am disappointed. Why did the police stop him. He was in a public space. And from what I could see there, he wasn't an obstruction. They just didn't want him to air his views. This is totally unacceptable. We have got to accept that a free media, freedom of expressions, is a fundamental pillar of democracy and good governance. You remove freedom of expression, a free media, and that good governance is compromised. As long as somebody has the permission to protest, they should be allowed to protest. And we've got to get away from this ZANU-PF mentality where you've got to jump through various hoops to get permission to hold a peaceful demonstration. That must be eradicated. We should allow citizens to express themselves freely. And we should certainly allow the media to report freely. If they were committing a crime, that's fair enough. We should properly arrest them and charge them and let the world know what crime they were committing. But to try to limit who can say what when is a dangerous path. As far as I know, these guys did get permission from the relevant authorities to carry out their public demonstration. This is a letter from that was posted on Mambo Soshe, some X handle, showing the letter with the Republic of Zambia police stamp on it, giving him and his colleagues the clearance to go ahead with the demonstration. As we can see, this Mambo Soshe and the friends he copied on this one are all very much connected with Chamisa. We should not object to people carrying out public demonstrations or the media reporting, because they are a fundamental pillar of good governance and democratic rule. I find it a great disappointment that the Zambian authorities saw it fit to stop Gambakwe there, live streaming a report on what was happening in Zambia. It is a pity we are resorting to these archaic methods of silencing those whose views we do not agree with. I will repeat, I do not agree with this SADC protest. I think it is a waste of time, but nonetheless, I emphasize, I stand and defend these guys' right to hold a peaceful demonstration. I stand and defend Gambakwe's right to carry out a live stream without any harassment. That is what as it should be. We cannot be aspiring for democracy, for good governance, for rule of law, and yet encourage lawlessness. Whenever it happens, we must condemn it. I'm disappointed that the Zambian police saw it fit to stop him live streaming. And I hope that we don't see a repeat of this. I hope these guys will be allowed to carry out their protest next month in Harare during the SADC summit there. And I hope we will not see a repeat where the police harass Gambakwe or anyone from the media or the public to stop them reporting on the events inside or outside the conference hall in Zimbabwe. We really have to embrace good governance and democratic values. And we must be prepared to pay the price. In other words, we must be prepared to hear opinions expressed publicly, even when we do not agree with them. It is a fundamental right to hold public demonstrations. Media, a free media, is absolutely essential for the health and functioning of a health and functioning democracy. Let the public be informed and let them make up their own minds. If we do not agree with what somebody is saying, we should express our views too. But that does not mean we should silence the other person. And when the state uses the state institutions like the police, the judiciary, to harass and somehow censor the media or deny people the freedom to protest, that we must condemn. And condemn without a moment's hesitation. Because if they can do it to A today, tomorrow they'll do it to B. The following day to somebody else. And sooner or later, we'll find ourselves in a situation where they'll do it to you and me. We have been crying for democratic Zimbabwe. I think we need to embrace those democratic values and defend them wholeheartedly whenever we can, wherever we can. And so I'll reiterate what I said at the beginning. I did not agree with Mambo Soshe and his friends' SADC protests, because I think they are not what they're protesting against is redirecting the energy we should be spending on implementing reforms and wasting it on issues that have got, you can see there's no end or purpose to it. But nonetheless, I wholeheartedly defend their right to have those protests. I wholeheartedly defend their right for media in activists like Gambakwe to air their views freely. That is as it should be. Thank you very much for joining me today. Before I close, I'll just show one or two other comments. Tina says, but I think things went wrong when the media house were not in agreement. The police and the army, African government take advantage if people are divided. Too far and others were criticizing Gambakwe. Well, I think criticizing Gambakwe again is part of the freedom of expression. As long as you criticize him but do not try to censor him or silence him. The protest, like I said, I did not agree with it at all. I think this is just Chamisa and company wasting time once again. And like I said, we are in this situation where ZANU-PF blatantly rigged last year's elections because MDC failed to implement reforms for the last 24 years. And the SADC election observer team came up with a report that clearly said those elections were flawed and that we should have reforms. And instead of focusing on getting those reforms finally implemented, they are again wasting time with these demonstrations. There really is no purpose in saying the SADC election observer team report should be retabled. To what end and purpose? If SADC were going to deny Mnangagwa legitimacy, they should have done it, not a year later. And if they did not deny him political legitimacy last year, then they cannot deny him the chairmanship of SADC, a minor position compared to the presidents of the country. Again, we are being dragged into, in my view, discussions on issues, and in this case here, not only ourselves, but SADC being dragged by these MDC, Triple C, Chamisa supporters in meaningless discussions. But again, I emphasize, that does not mean they should be denied the right to protest. That right is still a fundamental right, and they should be allowed to protest. And from Gambakwe's report there, it sounds like they were allowed to protest, but the police would not allow him to stream his live report, which I don't understand why. Because it didn't look like it was an obstruction in any way, and he was in a public space. So on that point, I think that is what I was trying to emphasize. And Tina also says that now the rumor is that he may have been arrested. So why should people cry foul? Well, if he was arrested, I really would want to know why he was arrested. As much as the authority, and it sounds like they did not approve of Gambakwe's take on the events, still he has the right to express those views. We must have free media. And we can not only allow the media that reports what we want to hear. And so if he was arrested, I will definitely be one of those people demanding that he should be released. Arrested for what? We can't just go around as a nation arresting people who are saying something that we do not agree with. As much as I do not agree with what the reasons for holding these protests, like I said, we should not be so presumptuous as to think that we have got the monopoly to knowledge. I may be wrong, but I also would maintain that I've got my right to express that view, wrong or right. If you want to prove me wrong, go ahead. He has got every right to express those views. And I honestly think if he was arrested, that is most unfortunate. And I hope that the authority will seriously think about it and release him without charge. Because I do not see anything wrong he did. We should not try to come up with crimes to justify our prejudice. I totally subscribe to the view that as much as people can have a different view, can hold different views, we must all agree that they have the right to hold those views. This Regis is saying that Gambakwe could have been flagged by Chikanza, that he could have be a ZANU-PF operative because last time he was encouraging people not to follow Gambakwe, calling him ZANU-PF. I don't know about that. I think Regis, as much as that is your opinion, I would want to be involved in such allegations. And I think it is important that we should not make allegations about other people unless you've got the evidence. I would not want to comment on that. Gambakwe is our man, said Gladstone. Be well and may God protect you for all Zimbabweans who want change. I could not agree with you more, but maybe not to the same extent as saying that he is our man in the sense that he is pushing for change. I don't think these protests are pushing for change. They're just sending us into circles. Failing to implement reforms is not going to bring about change. But like I said, I also totally agree that he should be released because If he is being arrested because the authorities did not like his take on events, that is most unfortunate. Freedom of expression is not conditional. Free media is not conditional. If we are going to start setting these conditions where you are only going to enjoy a free media if you say what authorities want, then we've lost the plot completely. I did not agree with a lot of things that Gambakwe said in the past, and I don't agree with the reasons for holding this protest, SADC protests. But, like I said, I believe they have the right to hold those protests. And I'll be damned if the police are going to come up with all manner of excuses to deny them that right, as has often happened in Zimbabwe. I definitely hope next month Gambakwe and friends will be able to demonstrate in Zimbabwe freely and will be able to transmit their take of the events freely without being harassed by anybody. That is the free democratic Zimbabwe we want. A free media with freedom of expression where the citizen can express their views freely without fear. That is the only sure way of making sure that our citizens are actually informed and knowledgeable. Because democracy does not work if you have got an electorate, as we do in Zimbabwe, which is ignorant, naive, and gullible. And in fact, it is what has got us in this mess. The people of Zimbabwe should never have believed Chamisa's lie that he had plugged all the vote-rigging loopholes last year, for instance. 2 million of them believed that lie. And even now, with the benefit of hindsight, many of them would not agree that he did lie. That is what I mean by an electorate that is ignorant, naive, and gullible. And that is dangerous for democracy and good governance. Because the same naive, ignorant electorate will be conned into participating in 2028 again with not even a token reform implemented. And SADC, even if they come and condemn the electoral process, they'll find it very difficult to do anything else. If Zimbabweans, in their millions, participate in the election process, when they've been told and they've been warned. I mean, this last year's report from SADC and the AU is a clear warning. This election process is flawed. It is for us to make sure that we implement those reforms. And here we are, instead of implementing reforms, we're busy demonstrating, protesting in the street, and demanding that SADC should revisit the election report and take action on it a year later. What action do you possibly think SADC can take now, a year later? I mean, the whole thing it's just unbelievable. We've got to be realistic here. SADC is not going to revisit that report. They've accepted it, damning as it is. But if you think they are going to reopen it so that they can come up with a different take on it, it's, to say the least, naive. And that is the reason why, like I said, I condemn those who are holding these street protests, asking SADC to do the impossible, when we should be concentrating on implementing reforms so that this history does not repeat itself. But, like I said, Gambakwe and Chamisa supporters have their right to hold those protests. Gambakwe had the right to report on the events in Lusaka as he saw it. He was not committing any crime from what I could see. I honestly think if they've arrested him, they will release him immediately without any further ado. It will be very embarrassing to the Zambian authority that they should be adopting the same authoritarian tactics that we have seen being exercised by Zambia. It will be a crying shame. Gambakwe, from what I could see from that video clip, was not committing any crime. He should be released. I seriously hope he wasn't even arrested. Thank you very much, those of you who were able to join me today. Like I said, in future, if you want to join in the discussion and say air your comments, yeah, let me know. I'll send you the link. But otherwise, thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock UK time, 8 o'clock Zimbabwean time. Good night.